Minions, welcome! I am the Overlord, and we're here today to find out what's to roguelike about Neoverse. A little pun there for you if you didn't pick up on that. And what we have here is a roguelite deck-building card game. Sort of like Slay the Spire. In fact, you might even say it's a Slay the Spire-like. But we'll get into that a little bit later. As always, be sure to take note of the version number at the time of recording this, because it is, despite charging $18, and despite saying on their Steam page that the game is basically ready for release, still, it's marked as early access, so keep that in mind. We're going to go ahead and jump right in to this game. Basically, that little scroll at the beginning was telling the story. It was basically, hey, humanity discovered how to break time and space, and then oopsies, there's the Neoverse, which reality doesn't make any sense. And as you can see right off the bat, we have 3 different characters: the Summoner, the Paladin, and the Agent. I'm going to go with the Agent because that's the most straightforward, and the competently designed class. I have a lot of issues. I'll just touch on that now. With the Paladin, basically, the Paladin can turn into a vampire and gain lifesteal for her attacks, but she loses her faith that she's building up, and faith is a mechanic that is basically like reverse poison. At the end of your turn, you gain HP equal to your faith, and then you lose 1 faith. But changing between vampire and non-vampire will remove all of your faith, and there are cards that only work when you're vampire, and cards that will work when you're not vampire as well. So you have to essentially stick with one strategy and hope that you get the cards for it. There's very little mixing and matching that you can do and still have a successful game with the Paladin. The Summoner's kind of the same way. You can summon Guardians. You have 3 to choose from. There's a lot of cards that work when you have a Guardian summoned, but there are a lot of cards that work when you don't have a Guardian summoned, so you're going to have to either get lucky and choose one side of either to not really use Guardians or to use exclusively Guardians, or you're just SOL. Again, you can't really mix and match. It's a little easier to mix and match with Helena because you can summon and dismiss Guardians at will, but you're just kind of playing a lot of cards in one turn and not really doing a whole lot with that. Agent Naya has some of the same issues, but she's more straightforward than others. And before we jump into it, as you can see here, there is, just like Slay the Spire's Ascension mode, there's a Transcend Universe mode that we can click that up, and then it adds an extra challenge. This unlocked when I beat the game the first time, so enemy start with 20 armor. We're not going to worry about that here. Now it's like, hey, here's some bonuses, and here's what I don't like about this. All of these are random, but when you start a new game, it's like, hey, HP decreased, max HP decreased, you can get more gold, but Slay the Spire, because it's very much like Slay the Spire, I'm going to be making a lot of those comparisons. They have a system like this too, where once you get past the first boss, when you start a new run, you'll get some options to change things up. Some of them have downsides. However, you're always guaranteed 2 options that don't have a downside to it because they're just a little bonus. Whereas the options with downsides are incredibly powerful and would probably be broken if they didn't have that there. I don't see how losing max HP is worth getting 150 gold. Or losing 5 HP at the start is worth 70 more gold. Fortunately, because I don't like that feature, I can just quit, start a new game, and then I will be good to go. It's kind of cheesy, but it just really rubs me the wrong way. It's like you saw something, but you didn't understand the subtleties of it before you decide to implement it for yourself, and it's fine. So as you can see here, we have skills. So in this game, there's not relics, there are skills, and we have some of these revealed, and some of these are mysteries. Now, you can buy a mystery skill, and it will always cost you 3, and sometimes there'll be a good skill like this with the 3 stars, sometimes there'll be a crappy one with a 1 star. 1 stars cost 1 skill point. Good, really good skill. 3 stars cost 5 skill points, and then 2 stars cost 3 skill points. So essentially you're gambling on an unknown skill to try to get one of these big ones for cheap. Or, you know, if there are skills that you don't like in any of these other things. There's definitely a lot of good skills to pick right away, and the more you choose from here, the more gets revealed in the rest of your skills. You have your records, which shows you the path. Again, I don't like this. And it's probably because the game's sort of generating it as you go instead of all at once, what the path is going to be. But I can't plan out, like, because each of these will branch a few times as well. I want to be able to plan out from the beginning, like, what my path is to the boss, instead of trying to hope that I didn't choose a really bad path at random. That you have your stores, you can buy stuff, you have your normal battles, you have your elites that give you a consumable item and some skill points and some extra money, and your boss at the end that actually cuts off right there. That is interesting. This is a full screen application, and it's cutting off the description for the boss battle. It kind of cuts off the UI a little bit. So that's fine. You can check out your deck right here. We'll get into this more in the battle. And then settings. You can change your inputs. That's fine. If you want to use keyboards, that's good. You can see what I'm running at. So if anything looks janky, it's not like I'm trying to run it at ultra quality or anything like that. Normal battle, let's jump into it. After all of this preamble, as you can see, there's a sci-fi space guy with like a post-apocalyptic police car and just kind of a general, kind of gives me a Tokyo Jungle vibe with a lot of this background, both in aesthetic and also kind of the quality of it. But let's get into the game. So you start out with 5 energy, and you play cards till you run out. Armor, which is what these cards give and what the enemy is going to do this turn, they prevent damage and they go away after a turn. So you can't stock up on armor, you only have to build up as much armor as you need to survive the attacks. Attacks obviously do damage, and there are specific mechanics related to each character. In this case, radioactive cut. It inflicts 2 points of radioactivity to the target and does more if they're already radioactive. This is an interesting mechanic. It's poison that stacks, so each turn they'll take damage equal to their radioactivity, and then the radioactivity will decrease by 1. However, when you attack a person and you are radioactive yourself, then you will inflict a point of radioactivity to them. So that is something that we need to keep in mind now. And we can guard through the radioactive damage, but we don't need to worry about that too much right now. We can just go full-on attack since he's guarding this turn. Something else you might have noticed already is, unlike Slay the Spider, this is a unique mechanic that I actually like. What's happening is, you know, I have my draw pile right here, and every time I play a card and have less than 5 cards in my hand, it draws a card to replace that, assuming that I have any cards remaining in my draw pile. Say I had another energy and I were to play another card, obviously I have 0 cards in my draw pile, so it wouldn't refill my hand, until next turn when everything reshuffles. And that means you can play a lot of cards without worrying about, like, oh, well, you know, I have to play 3 blocks and 2 attacks because that's all I have in my hand. It's like, no, you can choose, like, I just want to go full offense because he's guarding once more, just so we can finish him off, and hopefully I keep drawing into my attack cards, but it's not like that defined my turn. I just keep playing the stuff that I actually want to play. So, end of battle, we got a little bit of gold, we're going to get a card, add 1 to our deck. So you draw 3 cards, add 1 to your hand, shuffle. So that makes this shuffle mechanic pretty important, because it's like, oh no, I'm running out of cards but still have a lot of energy this turn. Oh, if I shuffle my discard pile into my draw pile, then I can keep playing cards for as long as I have energy. Radioactive exposure inflicts 5 points, or we can deal damage and inflict 2 points, which I like this. basically, there's like maybe one or two really powerful mechanics for each person, and you want to hope that you draw into that. For Space Lady, I forget her name. I'm not into that waifu stuff anyway, to be honest. Her thing is building up radioactivity, and then we have some interesting things. Maybe you get shoot cards, maybe you get cut cards, but you build up radioactivity and stack it on your opponent so that they will just die from massive poison damage. So we're fighting an elite right now. As you can see, when you have enough skill points to buy something, this thing will light up. This is a nice little touch. Given that it's like, hey, don't forget, you can spend this, but I'm not going to spend my points on this. I want to spend it on the radioactive barrier right there. As you can see, there's a timer, but that's only active in battles themselves. So we will take on this elite. He's going to increase his guard by 25. And yeah, another weird alien thing. Again, I don't know if these characters belong in this environment. And there's a... like, it might not be that bad right now, but when you play as the Paladin and go to the second world, it is very, very obvious. I'm gonna see about trying to play her again, and hopefully... oh, I should have been guarding, actually. That was silly of me. And see if I can get like a screenshot or talk over some video of that, because it is like embarrassing. This is one of those instances where... okay, so we're going to want to focus on defense a lot. Especially because we're going to lose a point of armor because we have 1 point of radiation right now. But we can block the majority of that. So I'm okay with that outcome. A lot of the early game depends on whether or not you get lucky enough to get a really good block card, and since we haven't, we might die already, and then I can show you another character. But another mechanic of hers is this overheat thing, where you have really powerful cards, but then it's like, oh hey, you get this thing of overheat, where you'll lose max HP based on how much overheat you have at the end of the battle. So you don't want to use your powerful cards to finish off enemies. But it will go down once each turn too, so in that sense you're okay. But yeah, that's the thing, and I think that's why Neoverse is... there's not really any story. It's just kind of, we made up a reason, just kind of pulled it out of our butts to throw all of these asset packages into one thing and make our own card game, which, it's not particularly inspired. It's like the Spire pun. And it kind of, when the game gets sort of unfair at times, then it just really makes it stand out a lot more. Like, especially because all you're doing is playing the same cards over and over. You're doing it a lot more often in these earlier stages too, where it's like, oh, well, I only have 2 different cards, so I guess I'll play my 4 defends and then, take some more damage. Whereas if there was like a good story or it all made sense, even if there was a good story though, that's the thing, like, there's nothing wrong inherently with using assets that you bought and incorporating it into your game. However, it does take a level of artistic finesse to be like, oh hey, actually, this is a pretty good card, I'm gonna take it. Like, these characters don't look like they belong in the same universe, and before you say, but that's not the same universe, it's the Neoverse, it's like, it doesn't look like it belongs in the same game. Like, the art style is completely different. It breaks your immersion and kind of calls foul to that sort of line of thinking. These guys are slightly different. Again, it's not too egregious right now. But there's some bosses that I got to the last boss with the other two characters. This character is the only one I actually beat the game with. And I had a really good deck, you know, I had the archetype and everything that we needed. And it was like, one of the bosses was, oh hey, I'm going to do huge amounts of damage, but before I do, I copy the armor that you have, and then add that to my attack. So, when it's the first turn or two of the boss, it's like, oh, you have 1 billion points of armor, that's great. And oh, also it translates to 1 billion points of damage. And the armor doesn't go away at the end of the turn. Like, that's not great. And then I almost beat it with the summoner last night when I was just doing a final bit of research before I jumped into this. And the turn counter down here where it says like how much damage it's doing, I had 52 HP as a combination of HP and armor, and this thing said 5 times 10, so he was 1 hit away from death. Like, he couldn't be damaged that turn, but he could have been damaged the turn after that. So he was all ready to go, all ready to die, and yay, radiation. Oh yeah, that reminds me. We need to get a skill. Okay, so this is a pretty good skill. Now we have a good block skill. We're probably in the money now. Radioactive barrier. This is great. So radioactivity doesn't hurt us as long as we... I don't know why you can deactivate a skill, but hey, it's there for you. It's good to have the option. But radioactivity won't hurt us as long as we have some armor, which we almost always will. So it's good. Evolving a card is upgrading. So this is the campfire, per se. You can upgrade a card to make it better. You can only upgrade a card once. You can medkit, which is resting. You heal some health, or you can remove a card from your deck. I'm going to heal some health right now. And then we're going to go face another elite, because that's kind of... You either face these elites and you do very well, or you get in trouble and you're dead. So this guy attacks a lot. This boosting shield, boosting shoes, which for some reason has a picture of a guy on a horse. Like, at least these have a picture of the actual model that they used. So there's that. But this one, it's like, this is exclusive to her, and I just don't get it. Why? Why mishmash it all together and set yourself up to do a big 3D game? And something that doesn't have to have 3D assets. Like, this could very easily have been a 2-dimensional game. Could have had some nice sprite work or something, and you would have been just fine. It doesn't change the mechanics at all. The fact that it's 3D has nothing to do with how the game plays. But anyway, back to my story about how I was facing this boss and just got totally bamboozled. There we go. Get ourselves some nice armor. It suddenly was doing 7 damage per attack once I clicked the intern button instead of the 5 damage that it was doing. And, I died, so it booted me out. So I didn't know what was going on, and the only thing... We actually don't need that right now. I can guess is that... Ugh. Well, that's card games for you. You don't need guard cards? Here's all your guard cards. The only thing I could guess is that despite it not saying anything, or despite it not being obvious, like, it might... Sometimes it also adds a debuff when they attack, but you don't know that unless you read the text itself. There's no visual indicator of, like, this is attacking, and oh, also it adds a debuff. And in Slay the Spire, again with the comparison, because it's very, very similar, just in a frustrating way, not quite as good, when an enemy inflicts a debuff upon you, whatever damage they say it's going to do to you is the absolute truth. That means if they inflict a debuff, which will cause you to take 50% more damage. That won't affect the damage that's coming in. And if you have a debuff, it will tell you exactly how much damage it is with that calculator, where in this, it's not always the case. Sometimes it is, but if they attack and apply a debuff at the same time, then that debuff will change the amount of damage that you were expecting to receive. I'm going to do this so we don't take damage from radiation. And then now that we have 5, we can get our boosting, which gives us 5 shield, which will increase the armor points that we get with each block card by 5, assuming that we can draw into... Oh, it's right here. Yeah, that'll work. So now our cards are very block heavy. Though we are still going to take some damage, unfortunately. See, so these are one-use items. Usually snipe, 20 damage to a target. Could be useful. Let's see, so he's gonna buff up. I can actually... Each one of those shots from that 5-shot attack will deal radiation. And now, yeah, as you can see, because I had no cards remaining in my draw pile for this turn, I only have 1 card left, and that'll resolve itself. And also, I win, because radiation. So that's nice. And that's a straightforward one to kind of figure out. Beginning of the turn, ooh, this is nice power. Or we could get Legendary Sniper. Send all cards in your hand to the use card pile in exchange for created random shooting cards. Increase 5 points of overheat. Yeah, this is supposed to be a super rare one, but this one just seems like it's better all around. So I'll take that. And then something they mix it up a little bit is you'll get supply crates, which are just like, hey, it's either an item or some money or a card. Explosive shot. This is AoE. I'll take it. You never know when that can be helpful. Oh, oops. I forgot to have a skill. Luckily, you can get these in battle, so I'm going to choose this one. What do we got? Organic Compound. On the first turn of battle, receive 2 additional mana. I wish I activated that before I started this battle. Because now... Oh, actually, we want to be attacking this one. Ooh, okay. So we're going to take some damage here. But we'll start getting them all nice and radioactive. Yeah, if we would have activated that sooner, we would have had extra mana that turn, which would have been nice. Or energy, or whatever they call it. Mana, okay. So it is mana. Explosive shot. Hits everything. It's 15 damage, another 10. Yeah, so that's a lot. And it's a good thing we have this radiation shield, because this is going to increase our radiation by 10. Perhaps we shouldn't have used the explosive shot. Perhaps we should have just used more guard, because we are taking a lot of damage. But this is an elite battle, so we will... Oh. Oh, this doesn't go away. That's neat. Well then, yeah, this is really good. 4 radiation per turn. Yes, please. Oh yeah, so he's going to deal 20 because he has a force buff, which gives him +1 damage per attack. So that's pretty nasty. And on its own, like, overall, I think the experience is just... It's just meh. It's just meh. Some of these semiotics are a bit off. Like, I would expect, like, a sword or something. Like, it shows here. That's, like, your force. But then it's like, nope, it's a yin-yang. And you're like, okay, I guess. So let's explosive shot. And then we'll urgent evasion, because that's good. That's some good block. They're going to add side effects to her hand, which are garbage cards. We really don't like that, but... we can deal with that ourselves. Yeah, because it's like, hey, with an attack, you get a yin-yang. Yeah, so these are nasty. once it allows me to read them. I guess I have to wait till my turn to read them. Yeah, when it goes into the use card pile, increase 2 points of force for all enemies consumed. So if we use it, it gives them force, which would make both of them deal extra damage, which is not good. But if we don't use it, then they'll get force anyway, and it won't disappear. So there are a lot of cards like this. They are not shy about just adding these really bad cards to your deck, and you might enjoy that. Let's see, I'll get rid of one of them. Oh, okay, because it's consumed, it actually doesn't go into your discard. So I misspoke a little bit. I thought that was the case, but just in case, like, there are cards that are just bad no matter what you do that they give you. So I wanted to double check that. See, that will take care of him, so that's good. Can guard, get rid of the side effect, and start working on you, I guess. We won't take radiation damage, but we're still going to take a ton of damage here. Ouch. We might not make it to the boss, actually. Explosive shot, yeah, so they're going to sort of waste their turn, which is good. We need to guard once to just prevent the radiation. Cut. Explosive shot. 15 to all, and this guy's dead. One more to go, which we can easily take care of. We're going to want to try to get rid of this overheat before we do, which we can. Yay! Like, again, in these mechanics, like, this character, the mechanics are fine. Let's see, do we want more attack power, or... yeah. Another thing that's really, really annoying about this is some bosses, we might run into that boss, actually. We'll take another one of these. We'll go to the lab to heal up again. Is that most of these decks rely on stacking buffs and getting really good synergy. However, there are a lot of there's a boss that I fought that was like, hey, every single turn, it dispels all your buffs. Like, it gets rid of everything that you build up. And it was just ridiculous. It's like, excuse me? I'm trying to play the game how you sort of designed it to be played, and now you're telling me I can't? Like, that's not challenging. Well, I mean, it is challenging, but not in the way that you want players to feel challenged. So we're going to have one less mana at the beginning of each turn, because that's this boss mechanic. It's not a particularly interesting one, but I mean, that's fine. What can you do? Yeah, I used both of my things to buff me up, and I'll go ahead and do 20 damage here. Use all our items. Why not? Set up the radioactive area. Get a little bit of buff going on. Give him a cut, and that's all we can do for now. We'll wait for our radioactivity to build up. Probably won't for a little bit, since he just put up armor. So we can just build up his radioactivity. And yeah, we could have had more guard, but again, that ability is pretty nasty. There's nothing we can really do to avoid that unless we had an item that would clear that, which we don't. Here we go, 9 times 3. Ooh, give him a cut. That's good. We don't have the mana for another guard, and we didn't draw it, so we're going to take more damage. Damage is the name of the game. Will we beat the boss? I don't know. 3, 2. Just stack the radiation. And yeah, a lot of them will clear debuffs from themselves. And it's like, well, like, the whole point of the game is to try to buff and debuff the enemy. Like, that's how you beat this, in my experience. It could just be a case of, like, get good scrub, but I am pretty sure... it's not just a case of get good. Like, especially with all the RNG that's inherent to a card game anyway. Just almost forgot about the -1 energy, or mana. Because space women use mana instead of, like, energy or power or something. And he's dead, so it doesn't really matter what we do. Give him the cut, there you go. And once we move on here, you'll see we'll go to the medieval ages for some reason. And yeah, we get a... Modified Future's pretty good. We'll take that one. Oh no, we're in the temple. Oh, how convenient. I guess I can just show you that. So I guess this second world is randomized, but the first one and the third one, in my experience, have always been the same. So let's learn some skills, and then we will see if we can run into the very embarrassing models. Is it going to be one? Yeah, like, look at this. Well, it looks like a weird, like, PlayStation 1, like, early PS1 sort of style, like, Spyro the Dragon sort of thing. It doesn't even look like it exists in this background, in this universe, let alone its own. And there are a lot of enemies that they use that are like this. So that's why I'm inclined to say that they're using asset packs that they just kind of dumped together to help make their card game. Which, I guess the asset packs must be pretty expensive if they're charging $18 for their early access game. The infuriating thing is, in their early access thing, they say, hey, this game is basically ready for launch. It's complete and ready for launch. Excuse my misspeaking here. And they put it in early access anyway because they want to, like, fix stuff, patch stuff. It's like, just be honest about it, you know? Just say, like, hey, we're releasing this game, there's going to be patches, because every game nowadays releases and is patched. It's just the unfortunate normal of video games, especially video games on Steam nowadays. Post-launch fixes and stuff happens in even the most polished games. I'll wrap things up here. Overall, like I said, it's meh. It's frustrating. It's not worth $18. Maybe wait till it drops down to 10 or something if you're really curious. It's okay. If you're on the fence, then you should probably just pass on this one. So, with that being said, hey, I hope you liked my review. Be sure to check out overlordempire.com or patreon.com/theoverlordempire if you want to contribute directly to my cause. Or if you don't, just like and subscribe to the video, and we'll call it even, alright? For the glory of demonkind.